My pleasure to welcome Mr. John Barfield, one of the most pioneering entrepreneurs from the region. A great story, a great success. Mr. Barfield, it's a pleasure to welcome you.
And it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
I have interviewed a fair number of very successful people. And when I interview entrepreneurs, every single one of them told me that when they were chasing their dream to become a successful entrepreneur, money was not on their mind. It was always the idea that could disrupt the space or bring value to the people they are serving.
Yes. When I started my business, I wanted to provide more adequately for my family. But one of the things that was most important to me was to make every customer a friend. And I was able to do that. I was driving home one day and I saw an old lady sitting by herself at a house in a very prominent neighborhood in Ann Arbor. And I drove up to her driveway and I got out and I announced who I was before, because I was a stranger going to her house and I didn't want her to be upset. And I said, I know you don't know who I am, but I'm John Barfield. And I said, she said, I do know who you are. You used to wash my windows. I said, yes, and the last time I washed your windows was 40 years ago. Your daughter was inviting her friend from New York and you wanted everything to be very special. And we sit there for an hour just talking about the old days. And I tried to have that experience with every customer that I ever had. When I walked through Ann Arbor, I can hardly walk down the street for people saying, Johnny, you remember when you washed my windows? Or I'll say to them, what did your son ever do with the idea that he had? And and it's really nice to go back 50 years and to be able to remember those experiences. It was sort of wonderful. It was one of the joys of building a business, is the people that I met that helped me to achieve that. We became very successful, and we had a very simple strategy. The strategy was to hire the best people that you could find, train them to be twice as efficient as those people that you competed with, and pay them twice as much. And we found out that we eliminated turnover and we increased the quality of our businesses, and we were sought after by 5 national and 1 international corporation to sell the business to them 13 years after I started it. There were some wonderful secrets I would love to have spoken about, and you'll find some of those in the book when you read it.
Yes, sir. And it's very gratifying to hear that, because increasingly, I think in a very competitive environment, and it's a much more global environment now, people always focus on bottom line and has never given anyone the pleasure that they look for out of a successful business or a successful life. So in spite of hearing these wonderful, heartwarming stories of success from people like you, where do you think most people go wrong?
When they realize that dollar is the only profit that there is. There are many ways to make a profit. We have built wells in Haiti, Africa, Mexico. We have shared our good fortune with people who were in need. And I found that profit is not only measured in how many dollars you put in the bank, but how much service you provide for less fortunate people. And that's what I've tried to do. When I built my company, we had one foundation, one set of, one saying that we had, and it's on the wall in my office. Remember that this company was built on 3 foundations: providing good services for our customers, being fair and honest to our customers and employees, and then being good and caring corporate citizens. And if you build on this, continue to build on this foundation, our company will always be successful. And that's what we've tried to do over the last 60 years.
I think in many of us there is a cynic hiding inside that keeps cropping up every now and then and saying, it's all well and good. You can do all these wonderful things only after you make your money. But I need the money first. So the question is then, for those of us who think that money is an essential element before you think of doing good for yourself or your family or the society, we can wait all our lives, but money sometimes will never come enough to do the good things. So, I thought I should ask you.
Well, I was praying for a title for my book, and there were all kinds of titles. One was from poverty to prosperity and things like that. I didn't like any of those things. I said that this book has to be written with humility and deference. It has to say that we didn't get to where we are by how smart we were, how hard we worked, but it was by the grace of God. And so I have tried to tell people that it's not necessary to have all the bells and whistles to be a successful entrepreneur. We started with from a $500 house and a second-hand Ford Motor Company. And we just had a good idea. We went to the builders, and at that time homes were being built in Ann Arbor, and the workmen would eat their dinners in the house, they'd use the appliances, and when the people finally got to the houses, they didn't get a new house, they got something that other people had lived in all the while it was being built. And I was one of the first people to make builders realize that if people buy a new house, they should get a new house. They shouldn't get a house that your employees have used the toilets and they've used the stove and they've used the refrigerator and they've sit in the house when it was raining. They should get a new house. So I said, you should clean this house so when these people move in, they feel they've got a brand new house. And that's how we started our business. And it was kind of new. And we took that same concept and we went on to others. After a while of working in the business, I went to large commercial and industrial builders, property owners, and because it occurred to me these people would need good cleaning services also. I went to places like the Hydromatic plant, the Ford Motor Company plant, the Bendix Corporation, Park Davis Corporation. I went to these big places and they were having the same problems that these builders were having. And I said, let me clean your buildings for you and do it professionally. And it wasn't long before we had built a very substantial business. And 13 years after we started that business, we sold it to International Telephone and Telegraph for one of the highest multiples they had ever paid. Now the funny thing about that is 6 years that I worked as a janitor for the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan told me that I was with $1.75 an hour, or $70 a year. When I started working as an entrepreneur and I cleaned 2 houses in a day and got $35 for each, I learned that I could make $70 a day rather than $70 a week. And that was the first time that I discovered the value of my time and my talents. And I was able to go to other people and to do that. And 13 years after I left my job as a janitor, I was able to retire. So it's all about having a strategy and sticking to it and doing more than is expected of you. You know, a lot of people, they have a job and they think, I've heard them say, you know, I work harder than anyone. I'm here the first one here and I do this and that. And I tell them, you're not paid for doing a good job. I mean, you're not promoted for doing a good job. You're paid for doing a good job. If you want to be promoted, you have to do more than is expected of you. And that's what I've always tried to do. And it's paid off. And as a result, we've been able to build one of the finest companies of its kind in the world. We were in 2014 named the best managed services corporation in the world. We're in 20 countries, and we have a reputation that's second to none.
Mr. Barfield, from a janitor to our first business that he sold to International Telephone and Telegraph, to now chairman of Bartec, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Mm-hmm. The scale is huge. People can't even comprehend the scale of business from where you are to where you are now. The fundamentals have remained the same for you, for growing a business. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge difference between running a small business to a multi-billion-dollar business. Mm-hmm. And the question is, how do you manage the scale and still be very good at it?
Well, what makes my story even more exciting is that I'm a high school dropout. It's a mistake that I made when I was a young man. I thought it was great to join the Army, so at the age of 16 I quit school. At the age of 17 I found myself aboard a ship bound for Le Havre, France. When I was 18 I was in Germany and then I was in France, and I came back with no skills. And I didn't have any expertise, yet I was able to start a manufacturing company that I ran for 13 years and sold to the Masco Corporation. I was able to start other companies. There's a company in Ann Arbor called Gross Electric. I started that company. I started that company and sold it to the grossest. So I didn't know a lot, but the secret to being successful, I think, is realizing what you don't know rather than what you do know. And by realizing that I didn't know how to do all of the things that I was challenged with, I found people that did know. And then my job was just to motivate them and to share my success with them. And that's how we build our companies. The secret to a good life is realizing what is important. And what is the most important things in all of our lives is to understand that they are your family, your faith, your health, and your friends. And people who invest in those qualities are usually the most happiest.
That's the essence of leadership. It's again a wonderful opportunity and a true pleasure, sir, to be with you and to talk to you.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Appreciate
much. It's been a wonderful experience and a great pleasure.